Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you, whatever time and wherever in the world you are listening. We are pleased you have found us. You are now listening to Inside the Bunghole, a podcast taking you on a journey through wine. Together, we will learn more about this wonderful elixir of life. So raise your glass to welcome your hosts and partners in wine, Pam and James. You are now Inside the Bunghole.
Welcome to Inside the Bunghole. We are sitting in the beautiful backyard of Paul Warson, who has ventured into doing his own label wine, and he's been in the business forever, and we're going to talk a little bit about his new wine and what's coming down the pike for him. Welcome, and of course I'm here with James.
Hello.
My partner.
Hello.
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I was going to say it's a pleasure to be here, but I would have been here anyway.
Exactly. It's a pleasure for us to be here.
It's a pleasure for us to be here. So tell us a little bit about what you've been very recently doing.
Very recently. Actually, November of 2019, November 2nd to be exact, my wife finally, effectively, or successfully pressured / bullied me into starting my own brand. And the first wines there was a soft release back in October, but now the wines are officially, as of the middle of January, officially on the market and for sale. The wine is named after myself. It's called Warson Wine Company.
Well, that's a good name.
I knew it was unusual, and there wouldn't be anybody else with it.
Exactly.
To commemorate that, one of the wines in this first release is a GSM blend, a Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre, that's called Blend 1102. And so that was the day in which she finally convinced me that it was time to start our own thing.
1102.
1102.
So November the 2nd?
Yep. November the 2nd.
2019.
You pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
You did it. Wow.
And
good for you.
yeah, actually we were it's a kind of an interesting story. We were at a friend's house here in Los Angeles who also have their own brand, and just because it sounded fun and to support them, we became wine club members, and so we were in their backyard, and every time their winemaker spoke or one of the partners spoke, my wife said to me, was just whispered, like turned her head and whispered, "That should be you." And after hearing it 4 or 5 times, I finally broke down and said, "Fine, I will call on Monday to see what fruit's available still, and then I'll up in Santa Ynez, and then I'll call a friend of mine in Santa Clarita, who own a winery up there, to see if they had space for me to crush," and everybody said yes. So
there's no excuse.
So I was up there. So from Saturday to Monday to Wednesday, I went up and looked at some vineyards, and I found some vineyards that still looked very healthy. Sugars weren't too high and crazy, and so I scheduled some picks, and that Friday, it was a full week. It took 7 days to put the plan together.
Amazing. So you obviously source your grapes.
I source my grapes from the Santa Ynez Valley, and actually beginning, with 2020, I purchased 1 ton of Cabernet Sauvignon from the Malibu Coast AVA, as well as a Grenache, 1 ton of Grenache that I made into a Rosé, which is also going to bear a Los Angeles County appellation.
So and then you have a space that you barrel and crush and do the magic.
Yeah, so there's a custom crush facility up in Santa Clarita called Pulcella Winery, and who they make terrific wines as well. And I have a bonded facility. My own bonded space in their facility. Yeah.
Right.
Now, you said yours has got or will have a LA County.
Yeah.
And how, that's kind of rare. That's not.
There's a small but growing movement here in Los Angeles. In fact, the hashtag on Instagram is LA Wine Movement. And I'm looking to join their ranks. I'm from LA. I'm making wine in LA. It's just a natural progression. I love the Santa Ynez Valley, and there's some vineyards that I grew to know intimately through friends and vineyards that Foley Family Wines purchased from. And while I have my connection to those vineyards, I want to establish myself as a producer of Los Angeles County wines here as well.
Yeah, be a trailblazer.
LA winemaker.
Yeah, and so I'll get you the screenshot, but everybody listening, my label it was designed by CF Napa up in Napa. A friend of mine owns the company, and nearly 20 years ago, when I met him, I was at his house for a party, and he asked me, "So when are you going to start your own brand?" I said, I'm never going to do that. He's like, "Well, if you ever do, actually when you do, call me. Let me have a shot at it." And so he was the only design firm that I called.
Is that from a painting, or is
No. So
it looks like it'd be a piece of artwork.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. They did a beautiful job on it. We had many conversations that lasted hours, and where I sent them work, art, and abstract art, classical art, and then just other bits of advertisement that I liked, that I was drawn to.
Yes, but
Yeah.
And I wanted my connection to Los Angeles and the beach to be expressed in the package, and that's what they did.
It's
this
beautiful,
is-
the waves.
Yeah, it's kind of like an aerial view of waves coming,
Breaking
and we'll
on the
have,
shore.
We'll
Breaking
have
the shore.
pictures on the
And-
website.
Yeah.
And all of our social media. It's a beautiful.
It
label.
is. It is. When I saw it, I was nearly moved to tears
Yeah.
because
It kind of pops on your rosé, it pops on your dark wine, the label is very neutral, but it really stands out. Simplicity is complexity, and that,
Yeah.
I know it's complicated, but it's very simple to look at.
And no, they did an amazing job on
Yeah.
it. They really did.
Now, how do you go about looking for your grapes? I know you have friends and connection, but then you have to physically go there and look at them and then check back up on them again and
Yeah.
then make the purchase?
Well,
Especially when you're dealing with a new wine making region.
yeah. Well, I mean, this wasn't a new. Well. So for here, in LA, it was. I called up two different people for the Grenache, and I liked one. I liked the site. I liked the flavors. I liked how the vines looked, far better than the other one, and it was as simple as that. And as for the Cabernet, I kind of fell into it unexpectedly, and I was just lucky. Another LA County wine producer, he was slated to purchase all of the fruit. There was supposed to be a little over 2 tons. He said, 2 tons is more than I need. You want to split it? And I said, sure, why not? So that was just dumb luck.
Right.
Or being at the right place at the right time. And, but there are, and walking the vineyard, tasting the fruit. I've done this 2021 is going to be my 29th vintage.
Right. It's not your first time.
Yeah, and that doesn't even count double vintages where I did a sparkling harvest and a still harvest in the same year. You begin to learn and have quote unquote an eye. Well, it's more than intuition, because it's at some point in time, intuition is overridden by experience.
Yeah, yes.
And so it's more than just, I have a feeling that this is going to be good, but it's actually, you know what? This tastes pretty good and I can work with it.
Do you think you would have made this if your wife didn't push you, or do you think it was, I know you wanted to do it, you wanted to pull the trigger, you wanted to do it, but it's nothing like having someone in your corner.
Yeah.
Pushing you.
I've got an amazing person in my corner.
Right.
In her. It was something that I was able to talk my way out of for 25 plus years. When asked, I simply said, you know what, it's going to take me X amount of dollars to get it going. And that's just before I even produce something. That's for the package, and that's for the website, and that's for attorney fees and compliance fees to get my own bond.
The bonding.
And even though you don't have to do that, but I mean, it's $2,300 for $1,800 for an O2 license, and it's whatever $650 to $800 for your 22 license. Well, I mean, as long as the people have to do the work, why don't you spend a little bit more money and then have the freedom to do whatever the heck you want? And so, and then it was, time. I don't have the time to sell it. Making wine's easy, selling it's difficult.
Yeah.
And it is. It's difficult. There's so much out there. But no, it's daunting and challenging.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I didn't have as an excuse anymore was time. Who's going to sell the wine?
Right.
I've been in LA for coming on 4 years this summer, and I've got several clients in the Malibu Coast AVA, a couple of clients up in Ojai, and so I make my rounds and I do my thing, but that doesn't take 5 days out of the week, or take up 5 days out of the week. So I've got time. Not having that excuse any longer, that's what finally, in my mind, was the rationale. Look, you can do this now. You can build those relationships, devote the time to it. And slowly but surely. I mean, I've got a couple accounts who carry my wine now. So slowly but surely.
Things are falling into place.
Slowly but surely, yeah.
Well, it's a reality, because we're looking at your wines, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to dive into these wines.
And I also want to ask the difference between being in charge of an estate wine and then you being...
You're not going to like the answer.
Okay. Well, we are inside the bunghole, and we're with Paul Warson, and we will be right back.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
Well, welcome back. We are opening this is the Sauvignon Blanc?
This is the Sauvignon Blanc
that we're going to be tasting. Very excited.
So this is very fruit forward in your nose. I mean, that's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. This has a slight hint of grassiness.
Yes,
like cut
a little bit
grass,
of grassy.
But it's just tons of grapefruit and tons of passion fruit.
Grapefruit's what I get.
One
I
of the
think
things
Scott would love that.
One of the things that I, as a winemaker, have always tried to do is make wine easy.
And this is not sweet, but it isn't suck the spit out of your mouth dry either.
Yes, and and I also like wines that can stand on their own. Yes, food and wine pairings can be amazing, and the purpose and object of it is to elevate both to something higher. But when you have either the food or the wine by itself, it better be balanced.
Yeah.
There should be some composition to it. They do have structure and feet that they can stand on, that it can stand on. So there is weight and there's body. And there is acidity, but it's balanced to all that because it just needs to be.
Yeah.
For me. And there's other
need-
winemakers who don't believe it.
Paul, this is awesome.
It is really, really, really nice.
Really.
Yeah, and I mean but this can be enjoyed with food.
Yeah.
And but because there's a little bit more weight, most Sauvignon Blanc, it'd be great with shellfish, oysters, shrimp, scallops, sushi. But it could probably handle a weightier fish like halibut or salmon.
That would go great with a Pink's hot dog.
Let me ask you a question. I was gonna ask you as we went into the break. Paul, before doing your own label, and now Paul doing your own label, what are some of the good differences? What are some of the bad differences?
What are some of the good differences in that? Well, the bad difference is that, there were people and practices and procedures for everything. And my job was to manage the facility, oversee the vineyard manager, make sure that everything that they were doing out there is what I wanted, and then oversee the facility, and then decide when to pick and see it to bottle, and make sure everything was okay. And everything else that was beyond that, while I had a hand in it, I would give the details and someone else would execute. I'm a great delegator, and when it comes to getting certain things done, I'm great. But when it's learning something new, and sometimes
And where it fits
there's been a bit of a learning curve.
You're wearing every hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in
wearing
charge of
every hat.
everything.
Yeah. There's really no playbook on this. I mean, there is,
Right.
and here and there, but when it comes to your own thing,
When it's your baby.
but they're here.
But they're here. So you gotta pat yourself on the back for that.
Yeah.
And that's a good tasting wine we just had.
Thank you.
Yep.
You want to try the Viognier?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We love Viennese.
By the way, I love Viognier.
Yes, so do I. One of the things that was important to me with starting this was, in my career, I've made wine in certain styles that were dictated to me. So I was able to hone in on what my
you
signature
like.
style is.
Yeah.
Is it especially in this Viognier or in all of them? All your
It's in all of them. It's in all of them. Earlier I mentioned the red wine that I have aging currently that's going to get bottled late spring. That's a blend of Petit Verdot and Cabernet Franc. I'm not going to say no one does that, because there might be some people that do. But you know what? That's what I like. People have asked me, well, when are you going to come out with a cab? I don't want to make a cab. I don't like Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm not the biggest fan of Chardonnay, but I've made a Chardonnay because, I know there's a market for it, and if I can make it my way,
Then I'll
in
like
which
it.
what I'm going to drink, then then that's okay.
Are you happy with this wine?
Love it.
Love it. This was my turkey wine last year, little Viognier, and my family drank water.
So
This is lovely.
Really easy going.
peachy, apricots, some honeysuckle floral characteristics, and then just light and easy.
Now, is this one of the ones that your friends kind of said, hey, listen, we got some extra grapes?
Yeah, this was put together from a couple of different lots. Yeah.
It's really nice.
Can you dial in a grape like that for next year and the year after that? Get it close?
Well, so, there's, it's funny you put it that way.
Yeah.
I've always described my job as a winemaker to make wine that's identifiable as what people have purchased, what was last on the market,
Right.
what I've got in the barrel or the tank for next year, and then what I'm growing currently for the year after that.
Right.
Because if it's not cut from the same cloth, then
People don't know what they're going to get.
people don't
The
know what they're
barrel's
going to get.
different. The great. I mean, it is. How can you?
Well, and there's, I mean, you don't buy different barrels. You experiment with different barrels every year.
Right.
So you can learn and see if you can improve. But you know what? You keep the core the way it is, and you if you're going to make changes with different barrels, you do it slowly over time. There are winemakers who are self-described as making wine that displays the terroir of a site, of a place. And so if it's going to be a rainy year, they've got an out. It's fine that it comes from a certain place. Before starting this, I worked exclusively for family-owned wineries, most of which were estate-grown vineyards, and we didn't purchase anything. And so, that's what I became good at. And if it didn't always smell and taste like it did year to year, then I did something wrong.
So your background, your schooling, you went to UC Davis?
I went to UC Davis, attended it straight out of high school.
Yep.
And I thought I wanted to go to med school, be a doctor like my dad. I started homebrewing with some friends. I went to the entomology department and I dropped my major and I walked over to what was called the Fermentation Science department. Back then, it's now the Viticulture and Enology department. And I added my major.
And this was the beginning of your fourth year?
Beginning of my fourth year.
Oh my God.
So Fermentation Science.
So then I called my parents that night and told them what I did.
Might be an extra year in this work.
And so I called them up and that evening, and I said, is Dad around? Could you get him on the phone too? Well, sure. You want to talk to both of us? I never did that. I talked to one or the other.
Yeah. They knew something
That'd
was
be
up.
great. Yeah, they knew something was up. I was in jail, got somebody pregnant. Who knows what things might have been going through their mind.
Yeah.
And so my dad got on the phone and I said, hey, I wanted to talk to you guys and tell you what's going on up here. You know how I've been brewing beer? Yeah, it's been pretty good. I've enjoyed it because I would always bring a couple of six-packs down of each, or at least a six-pack of each batch for my dad. And I changed my major today. Silence. My mom said, to what? I said, to Fermentation Science. And my dad said, I'm not having this conversation, and he hung up the phone.
Wow.
And then my mom set down the phone, and I could hear her yell throughout the house, Nanny, come back on the line. Come on, just let's listen to him. And I could hear him shouting at my mom.
Fermentation Science.
What kind of hell
And so 30 seconds, 45 seconds later, my mom came back on the phone and said, we're going to have to call you back, honey. And I'm like, okay. She hung up the phone, I hung up the phone. And I knew not to call. And that was like on a Thursday. My dad called me the following Tuesday or Wednesday.
Almost let you sit on it for a week.
Yeah. He said, so you're doing this? I said, yeah, I like it a lot. I love the material. And yeah, I want to become a brewer. He said, you can get a job? I said, yeah, I can get a job. Brew pubs and they're exploding right now. No, it'll be great. And he's like, you sure about this? I said, yeah. and you'll be happy? Yeah. He said, okay. We gotcha. And so brewing led to, that was my focus most of my fourth year. Found a job at a winery. They put me in charge of the crush pad for the swing shift because I was at least somewhat knowledgeable in some of the processes. And you know what? I was the token brewing guy. But you know what? It was really an amazing experience. It was a wonderful work environment. Everybody, office stores were usually open. If you had a question, you can just knock or just, hey, you got a second. It was an amazing place to work, and I was able to make Firestone a place like that, where people are happy to come in and they want to work and they want to put in that little extra effort, because they know it's the right thing to do, because the product is going to be that much better, and they invited me back to that following year. To work. I worked in the lab that year, and they simply said, "Hey, you want to come back and we can show you the other side of things. Work in the lab, taste the juices, do this and that." And because I had graduated that year, and because I wasn't returning to school, they put me in charge of a small still wine project with Pinot Noir that they were doing, and again, I was able to make all these. Everything was in 1.5 ton bins, and I was pressing them by hand in either a basket press if they were that small, or a small 1.5 ton press if the lot was big enough. And another powerful, moving, career-determining experience, and I'll forever be grateful. I love what I do. I don't know.
And wine's a science. Wine is a science.
It's a science.
It is a science.
So you have gone from doing what you love and loving what you do to now being able to create your own
brand.
And
my own
own it.
My own statement.
Going back to the rosé. That rosé is it's a rosé of
Grenache and Grenache Blanc, actually. I like to make rosés. They're quote unquote white wines from red grapes, but I think, and there's so many different styles of rosés, and I drink so many different styles of rosés. But I like rosés that, in addition to having intense aromatics, that there's a little bit of tan in there, that there's a little bit more structure than the average pink wine. Mm-hmm. And so this is it's 85-ish, 80-90% Grenache, and then the balance is Grenache Blanc.
And this one, and what was the other one that was going to be those were the only two you were going to make? That's
the Petit Verdot Cab Franc. That's 85-15. This is not quite 85, a little bit more than 85. And that, part of it, that's what was, the Petit Verdot, I got exactly what I wanted from that, and then they said they thought there might have been 1,000 pounds of Cab Franc, and there was a little bit less, and so I'm like, all right, well, just give it all to me then. And some of the Grenache, they had Grenache, and then some of the Grenache Blanc they hadn't picked completely, and it was just kind of hanging out there, and I said, hey, you mind throwing in a half a bin of that? And they said, well, if it makes it up to half a bin, sure. Well,
this GSM is wonderful.
Yes.
You're good at your craft, my friend.
Thank you.
These are really wonderful wines so
and you
far.
can't, you know what? They do taste personal, and you can taste the love. But they're all very, very approachable and drinkable, and there's nothing that's too heady about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and and wine, it's okay for wine to be a beverage.
Yeah.
But you know what? It better do something to make or possess something for you to want to have another glass.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed our time here with you, and
just a
hopefully
regular
we'll get to
backyard.
see you very soon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Come out and see us in the desert.
I need to go out there. I've got some friends out there as well. So.
And then how would anyone listening or find your wine and order it or what?
The website.
Okay.
It's warsonwine.com, and I'm currently shipping to most of the states across the U.S. I think there's only 4 or 5 that I will not be shipping to. New Jersey, Connecticut, Kentucky, unless they change their laws, Alabama, unless they change their laws. There's only a few states that I can't not ship to. So yeah, they just need to go to www.warsonwine.com, or they can certainly do a search on my name, Paul Warson, and they can find me that way.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much, and we will be keeping in touch with you.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Okay.
And join us next time on Inside the Bunghole, where we're going to be exploring and enjoying more fun wines. Thanks.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!